Hickok 45 here. Welcome to Hickok 45 Talks. Yes, that's the channel you're on. So I'm going to talk about a topic, as usual, bore you to death. Talking about shooting steel, as you can tell from the title of the video. It's a very frequently discussed issue, frequently asked question. It just comes up a lot as you see it. Especially on our videos, I'm sure other people's videos, who shoot steel. Probably quite often by newer shooters, but not always at all, because I know a lot of people are probably raised the same way I was as a youngster. Don't shoot hard surfaces, don't shoot rocks. My dad was not a gun guy necessarily. He had a couple of guns and was in World War II and all that. But I mean, as far as a collector and a shooter, he didn't do a lot of shooting. Got into it more so when I got him into it in a bigger way. But even he, you just be careful what you shoot. Even shooting water, you get the ricochets off the water, glances, and you're shooting rocks or just anything can bounce back at you. Anything hard like steel, you want to set up a rim from a car and shoot at it. Some hard piece of steel, it gets something back at you. So many of us have grown up knowing that. Well, what happened? you started looking online, or even back before the YouTube, at videos of various shooting competitions, or going to shooting competitions and watching or shooting, and people are shooting steel, the steel challenge, big speed shoot, been going on forever. I guess it's still going on. And cowboy action shooting, you shoot almost nothing but steel, right? And so you're not supposed to shoot steel. You might get a ricochet back. How come everywhere I look and every kind of competition, USPSA and everything, they're shooting steel? Well, it's often at pretty good range. When I did the IHMSA silhouette shooting, at animals far out there, the closest animal, they're all steel targets, of course, like mine, and the nearest one was 50 meters, the chickens and everything. You're far enough away, pretty much whatever you're shooting is probably not going to come back at you. We might have gotten a little bit shrapnel back once or twice, but you're wearing glasses, it's a long way. But now a lot of the handgun competitions, as you know, and handgun shooting takes place at closer ranges. It's like on my range, and we shoot steel. Bottom line is, as I always say, and we have a video on it, in case I forget to mention that, shooting steel safely. The title of that video, shooting steel safely. Maybe I'll link to it. And you shoot at your own risk. Well, anything you do is at your own risk, but you shoot steel at your own risk. You have to have good glasses, because you can lose an eye and a heartbeat. If you got good glasses, safety glasses, then probably the most likely, or the only problem you might have is you might get a piece of shrapnel back and you get a little bleeding or something. And I've seen one that was a pretty good hit from a guy, and this was a match back in the 80s, and they didn't have a flat steel, and we were shooting some stuff. It wasn't even USPSA, it was kind of an early version of that, and nothing was regulation. The targets were not flat, they weren't hardened steel, and I can't remember the exact target, but it was something that just, like a plowshare or something that was not standard, and we weren't very far from it. And we had to put some shots on that, and it came out around an edge or something, and it came back, and it got a guy standing watching. He wasn't even shooting in the match. He was just with somebody. I didn't know him, and it hit him in the cheek or something. It cut him pretty badly and had to take him to the emergency room. He was bleeding a lot. So it can happen, but it's just, knock on wood, it's not happened to me, other than just, you feel a little bit coming back at you now and then or something, a little bitty piece. But the secret is, of course, to have the hardest steel you can afford, ideally, AR 500, and then have it hanging so it gives, and the splatter, I always say, and some of you have heard me talk about this before, it's, in fact, I think in that video I use a water balloon to demonstrate, I believe, but imagine throwing a water balloon at something, and you know how it just goes out like that and down and out. If it hits a flat surface, and if there was an edge, if you throw it at something that has an edge, it can kind of redirect it back at you. You know, same thing happens. Same thing can happen with lead. And so you want a flat surface, hanging preferably and swinging, so it gives and everything just goes down and out. Okay, most of the energy is expended when it hits the steel. So you always shoot at your own risk. It's fun shooting steel, and one reason it has taken over like it has over the last decades is it's way more fun. Way more fun. Well, think about it. People growing up, you always love to shoot tin cans with your .22 and see the reaction. You see the hole in it, or the can fly off the post, whatever you're shooting at like that, even if it's a bowling pin or a piece of wood. It's just fun to see a reaction. Much, much more fun than just shooting paper. And so that's where that comes from. I got addicted shooting steel, you know, when I was out at the black powder range at the Charlie Hafton range in Franklin, south of Franklin, years ago in the early 70s, and started shooting at them with handguns too, not just muzzle loading rifles. And I was addicted. Boy, you hit that steel and see that groundhog fall over, or that buffalo, or whatever, and it's just more fun. You know, it's better for the spectators. You go watch a match, a USPSA match or a cowboy action match, you can tell when that person is shooting whether they're hitting or not, for the most part. Even if you can't see holes on paper, you can hear when that steel's hit. You know, so it's just fun shooting and watching, you know, both. But you do want to have you know, good glasses, because you know, sometimes it will come back. I think there's videos on the internet of some crazy things that have happened, where even from a long range, a bullet has come back, or a jacket from a bullet has come back. So be careful, shoot at your own risk, get the best steel you can afford. There's plenty on that now. We got the video I was talking about, and you know, the target makers know what they're doing for the most part. There's no edges on those targets. You want to avoid targets that have an edge. I mean, you know, like a stand or something, if you can, and hang that thing. So no matter which way the lead goes when it hits, again, imagine throwing mud at that target or a water balloon, so that none of it is going to be directed back at you. Okay, it's just going to go out, up and down. Okay, so that's about all I can say about that. I'm done. Life is good.